Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Van. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach to women, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to help you reach your greatest potential. This week, we continue our journey through different modalities. In doing so, we're turning our attention to a self-directed grounding technique that requires only you, your thoughts, a pen, and a piece of paper. What is it? It's journaling. Now, it's not the type of journaling you see across most social media with endless prompts, recording the day's events, creating a manifestation and intention list, but instead, we're focusing on deep therapeutic journaling, the kind that soothes the soul, unlocks the subconscious, and opens the door to a genuine, non-judgmental conversation with the self. So let's take a one-on-one deep dive and shift our perspectives into how we can change our lives through the power of our own words. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. Let's dive right in because today we're really continuing the conversation of all those tools and techniques, kind of been going through a little mini series, if you will, of different modalities that help serve us. And as you just heard, we're talking about journaling today. But really, what's so important to point out right from the get-go is after years of studying our experiences, our emotions, behaviors, from as far back as my news career days or to now when I'm sitting across from women who are in major life revolutions, to writing, teaching, and facilitating guided meditations, there's one thing that I know with absolute certainty and clarity, and it's this: our personal history, our stories, our legacy, the thing that we're writing in our day-to-day, these experiences, they have incredible therapeutic healing power. The rub is that most of us do not use this power to our advantage. So many of us tell ourselves that, we know ourselves intimately, and there's nothing left to uncover, or we don't need to go back. And we often feel that we understand our experiences because we have lived through them, right? Why do I need to revisit a moment that I've already lived? Then there is this added narrative that's really been driven home by social media, also by personal development books and many unqualified self-help gurus. My fingers are literally air bouncing right now, air quotes, gurus, who keep telling their followers, the past is done. You aren't there anymore. Stop focusing on it. Let it go. Just get over it. # be done. Okay, that's really cute because you show me a person who has had deep trauma or has had really heavy experiences that can just say, well, that's done. Most people don't have that kind of ninja mindset, nor does it serve us. No, we should not be living in our past. No, we are not our past. We cannot dwell there either. But in order to grow, we must examine, learn from, build on top of, and use what we have learned in our past to help us heal and to move forward. That is why we do what we do. That is the essential element of growth. Of course, therapy is an amazing tool to do this work, or working with a life coach, or working with somebody who's qualified. But there is something else that you can use in conjunction with, or even as a starting point, if you don't have access to formal therapy, or you're not quite ready yet. And of course, that goes back to writing. I'm going to hand over a total vulnerability moment because it's not right or even fair of me to ask you to do things or to hand over all these techniques and tools without really identifying how they truly make a big impact. And the biggest impact when it comes to journaling that I've seen other than on clients has been within my own personal life. So again, bear with me, a little vulnerability. In 2016, my life was a disaster. It was a true mess. And in fact, that's not even a real fair assessment. It was an emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual tornado, really, complete disaster. In July of that year, everything I thought I knew, wanted, was creating, even had, completely changed. Literally everything around me felt as if it was tumbling down and the earth beneath my feet was opening up and swallowing me whole. While everything else in my life was tumbling down, I was trying to figure out how to stand still. My father-in-law passed away. 7 days later, my stepmom of over 30 years, who I was extremely close to, passed away. 45 days later, our middle daughter, Madison, was gravely ill, laying in my arms as she was in kidney failure inside of an emergency room. And things just felt awful. And yet there was more to the story. The day after her kidney removal surgery, I found myself in the emergency room screaming in so much pain that I, as well as the doctor treating me, thought I was having a brain aneurysm. All of that trauma, all of that was falling on top of me. My life looked nothing like it had at the start of that year, and something within me knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Add that to the fact that my mind, heart, and body were exhausted. My emotional state was not good. My physical state was a disaster too. Of course, now I can look back and say it was the greatest blessing of my entire life. However, then it felt like a shit show. I'm not going to lie to you. And honestly, it was. And maybe you're saying, okay, Danielle, I get what you're saying, but why do I actually care? Why do I care how you were falling apart? How does any of this serve me? And all I'm going to say to you is hang with me. There is a reason why I'm telling you this, I promise. And that reason starts with the fact that I found myself where many women have met me since. Perhaps it's a place you've been in or you are in now. That place where you're uttering the words, I am broken. My life is broken. I want change, but I just don't know how to get there. That's where I was. To go below those feelings, to go deeper into those truths, I, like many, only wanted a way out. I know I wanted out of the emotional pain. I wanted out of feeling like everything was literally killing me. I had to find something, anything that would soothe my soul and bring me back into balance while honoring the change of perspective I had gone through. But what? What was that? How? And would it come early enough or soon enough to get me out of the pain I was experiencing? You know that saying, the teacher will appear when the student is ready. I was the student, and the teacher would ultimately be my own story, my own words. So here's an aha moment for you right off the bat. That truth, that is the truth for everyone in this universe. Our story, our own words, our own experiences, they are teachers. But like I said before, many of us don't use that to our advantage. Now, it wouldn't be fair to say that I came up to this understanding by myself, right? Or I came to it alone. I didn't. No way. I had a beautiful friend who was tapped into what was going on in my life. She knew my grief. She knew my history. And because of that, she continued to push me into two directions. One was meditation, and the other was to pick up my pen. Truthfully, she had probably told me 10 times to write out my feelings, and all 10 times I dismissed the conversation and her, to be honest. But it was the 11th time that got me, that stuck to my bones and opened my mind just enough to hear what she was actually saying, what was actually being said to me. In sheer frustration of yet another conversation, another complaint by yours truly, only seeing the grief and never the lesson, she said words to me that I will never in my lifetime forget, and words that I am deeply and eternally grateful for. She said, "What are you doing?" Just like that. You are literally a writer. I swear to God, I'm going to shake you. Pick up your damn pen and put your thoughts on paper. If you want to help yourself, then help yourself. If you don't, then stop saying you do. And stop complaining too. I'm done. I don't want to listen to it anymore. Damn, right? It was exactly what I needed. Sometimes we need those moments. Sometimes we need that moment of being shaken out of our own way. I sat in those words. I don't remember how long, probably a day or two, but they were the fuel and the fire that I needed to pick up the pen. You know, to pick up the pen was one of the bravest things that I have done for myself at that moment, in that space and time of where I was in my life. Remember how I told you that this was relevant to you too? So what if I said those words to you? What are you even doing? You know, picking up the pen for yourself is one of the bravest things that you can do too. Now, before the weight of all the excuses come between us, please don't say, but I'm not a writer. I don't write like you do. I'm terrible at it. I don't know how to express myself. I don't even know where to get started. I would say, isn't that why we are sharing this moment together? Of course it is. To express yourself unfiltered, uninhabited, without bias or parameters or fear of judgment, because you don't have to show anyone what you write. We really not only help gain insight into our deep subconscious thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, it gives us the power to help solve problems that we are trying to get at in our day-to-day life. It helps reduce stress. It unlocks the answers we've been seeking. And it gives us the understanding to the pieces of the very reason why life has felt shaky, uncertain, and any other manifestation of upheaval or negativity. Perhaps those seem like big results for simply putting pen to paper, but when done correctly, the key word here is correctly, those results are not only measurable, they're tangible and within reach of nearly every person who puts this practice into action. I know because I've done it myself. I've guided so many through doing it for themselves too. Journaling is really the key that unlocks what is buried. It's the key that helps you meet you right where you are right now, right? It's like this intimate dance with the self. I said the words, when done correctly. Listen, if you put the word journaling into any search engine, but particularly Google, you are going to hit over 32 million articles, images, videos, free downloads, blogs, you name it. And those hits are going to span from journaling as to what it should be, how to do it, what isn't working, what does work, and everything in between. Talk about overwhelm when you're talking about 32 million hits. Let me assure you that I've done the research, and the journaling that we're going to talk about today, that we're going to walk through, isn't about bullet points or a diary or any kind of log. Those are great. And if they work for you, stick with it. But if you really want to go deeper, if you really want to get into the bones and the soul of what it is you're trying to work through, we have to go a step further. We have to get into the subconscious mind. If you're a frequent listener of this podcast, you've heard me talk about the subconscious mind before, but I want to dig deeper into it when it comes to journaling as a therapeutic or healing mechanism. First things first, let's look at the subconscious mind in the way that it works. And it works in patterns. This is why we have automatic behavior, automatic responses to things that we've experienced or felt before. So we need to point that out and really keep that in the forefront of our minds. We often behave, think, and feel the way we do because we've already attached meaning from another situation, and we've told our brain that we either dislike or like what is in front of us. This is big when it comes to our everyday lives. When we aren't mindful, we go around with these preset judgments of what works and what doesn't. One of my favorite quotes from the late Dr. Wayne Dyer is this: "It's to be open to everything, attached to nothing." Those words speak so heavily to how our subconscious mind works. More so, this idea is especially huge and necessary when we talk about ways that we process or deal with the hard experiences in our life. So let's build on that idea. With patterns in place, we must look at the subconscious mind for what it is. It's sort of our iCloud, right? Our memory bank, if you will. Its capacity is virtually unlimited, and it permanently stores everything that happens to you, through you, and for you with no effort. That's huge, right? No effort is given. This just happens automatically. The subconscious job is to ensure that you respond how you are programmed, how you have told your mind to respond. This is why it is so important to know why you feel the way you do, how you think and why you think that way, and why you behave in the manner in which you behave. It also does everything it can to make sure you are consistent with your self-concept, right? So the way you see yourself. I'm not going to lie, there are many women who feel attacked by themselves when I tell them this truth, but there's another layer that we have to look at. The subconscious is subjective, meaning it doesn't think or reason independently. It merely obeys what it receives. What do I mean? Let's say you lose someone close to you. Your thought process around that loss can, it could be a number of things, but say it overwhelms you. Say it takes you down emotionally and that you mentally are having a very hard time wrapping your head around this kind of loss. When this occurs, you are telling your subconscious, this is what loss feels like. This is how I will respond the next time. You are literally planting the seed so that the next time that something like this occurs, the subconscious unquestioningly is, a servant. It literally hands over what it already has gone through, what it already knows. This is where habitual thinking and behavior is formed. The comfort zone, when it comes to the mental state, it is the subconscious. It's the preserver of balance, of like energy, of doing what is comfortable, even if it is actually uncomfortable. Now, here's something that many may or may not agree with, but after doing so much work in this area, I feel like it's really greatly underestimated and not fully understood. But our ego, it's like the spokesperson or the voice of our subconscious. The ego is the part of us that helps us express our identity. It helps us express who we are from the inside out. Where are those pieces stored? Right? The subconscious, because that's where our beliefs are patterned. What is wired within our mindset is our truth, whether it is anyone else's truth or not. It is ours. And remember, I didn't say truth as an affirmation or it being affirmed or true in everybody's sense. I'm just saying this is our truth, what we believe. The ego speaks up, right? It speaks for us. It speaks for the subconscious mind. Everyone tends to think that the ego is all about being loud or conceited or narcissistic. But the truth is, every single one of us has an ego. We don't want to live from the ego, but its job is really to encourage the beliefs that the subconscious already holds. It speaks the language of those beliefs through our emotions, our thoughts, every single action we take. Maybe you're saying, okay, great, that's interesting, but exactly how is any of this going to help me in the terms of healing or journaling or anything that we were really coming together to talk about? Well, one, knowledge is power. Understanding that you are the meaning-making machine and everything that you do, think, and feel is huge. It also means that you have access to the subconscious anytime you want. And making changes is as easy as looking for patterns. You have the power to tap into that spokesperson and say, Hey, are you doing me dirty with the language you're speaking? What's up with this? Why are we doing this? Why are we circling in these same patterns? And the best way to do this is to bring awareness to it all. The easiest way to bring awareness? Well, it's to move that awareness from the mind to the paper. When you journal correctly, when you do it intentionally, mindfully, in a non-judgmental way, you dismantle the ego, you disrupt the pattern, and you have the power to rewire a new truth, a truth that works for you instead of against you. How? That's the question, isn't it? How? But before we talk about how to successfully begin this process or level up if it's something you are already doing, there's one rule I'm going to ask. Okay, no, I'm going to beg. I'm going to beg you to adhere to, and it's this. Journal in written form on a page. Please do not use your phone, your computer, or a tablet, or any other electronic device to journal, unless that is the only option, okay? But if you have the power to actually put pen to paper, please do it that way. Here's why. Most people write differently when using the mechanics of writing physically than they do when they are typing. When we are typing, we have the urge to seek perfection. We even go as far to, edit. We start looking for our mistakes. We're watching as Word or any other program that you use puts the red line underneath our writing, and we don't want to do that. When we're writing by hand, it's a lot harder to correct our mistakes unless you're going to scratch the page and start over. When we are therapeutically journaling, we want to do so in a manner that does not have us editing or censoring ourselves in any way or really auto-correcting our thoughts. More so, having a device in our hands lends ourselves into the frame of distraction. 1 minute we'll be in the thick of writing, and the next we are endlessly scrolling social media, going into the black hole of content that is not serving the purpose of the moment. So if we can disconnect, it is so important to do so. When we write by hand, we tap into the brain waves and patterns that we don't get into when we're really using the electronic medium. When we are tapping into the subconscious, we want to tap into the intrusive thoughts, the memory bank. And when we're working with this inner conversation and we're doing so electronically, a lot of times we go into autopilot mode in our brain, and so we can't fully get there. And so we want to make sure that we're not pushing against or avoiding anything because we are not using the correct devices, which is pen, paper. I know it's primitive, but I promise you it works. Ultimately, we really want to allow ourselves to get clarity to whatever it is that we're struggling with or whatever we want to do, to our goals, our intentions. And so to do so, we have to really go to this medium. So now let's talk about the how. How to start and keep a therapeutic journal. First, regardless of what the 32 million articles on the internet says, please know that journaling is as individual as you are. You can go by a structure, right? All of the endless prompts, or you can free-form your way into your best self. It literally doesn't matter because there's no right or wrong way to do this. If it creates a healing path for you, it works for you. There are a few parameters that will assist you, and I want to hand those over. But again, these are not set in stone. They don't have to be done. However, they are huge helpers when you're getting started. So the first is to set an intention. Get to know your why. Why is it that you want to move through this healing path, this growth path, whatever it may be for you? What is it in your life, your past, your current moment that keeps coming up and finding its way into your thought pattern day after day? Are you holding on to your childhood or how it was for you? Are you dissatisfied in your marriage or your relationship? Are you feeling purposeless and struggling with low self-esteem or self-worth? You get it. What's happening in the now that needs to be addressed? If you have any amount of discord in your life right now, it really shouldn't be hard to jump from here's what's going on to Here's what I intentionally want to create. Now, on the other hand, therapeutic journaling doesn't have to be used to solve a problem or to heal. It can be used for growth too. So if you don't have situations right now that you need to address, maybe look at what is really working in your life. How satisfied are you? Is there something that you can focus on right here, right now, that's going to make your life 1%, 10%, or even 50% better? Whatever it is, establish an intention. If you don't know what that sounds like, go back to the podcast where I talk about the power of intentionality over setting goals, because there I outline exactly how to do it and what the formula is for setting intentions that have purpose and are achievable. Now, with an intention in hand, you can move on to step 2, and that is to create a routine or a schedule for your journaling. Now, like I said, this is your path. However, please do not skip this step. It's highly important. When people begin to journal, they often get really excited, or they're doing it because their coach or their therapist is telling them that they have to in order to meet with them again the next week. And so they're coming to it really reluctantly. But either way, we often start with something with the intention to do it, and then life gets in the way, and this new thing that we've sort of kind of committed to falls off the to-do list. You want to set yourself up for success. So how you do that is to set time within your schedule. The other big thing is this: it doesn't have to be an hour each day. If all you have is 15 minutes to engage with yourself, to dance with your thoughts and your feelings and your soul, then engage for 15 minutes, right? What's important to note is that habits are formed through consistency. Consistency is created by putting aside the time to show up. I personally journal every single day, still to this day, without fail. If school is in session, I will get up somewhere between 4:30 and 5 a.m. and do about 20 minutes of writing before my meditation time. I am not saying that is when you need to do this or that you need to get up that early. That's just what works for me. My house is quiet at that time. My husband and children are still asleep. I have the power to turn off the notification from whatever app or email or platforms that I engage with. I really can get into a place that is unrestricted and unbothered by anyone or anything that is asking for my time and attention. So what works for you? Is it early in the morning? Is it after you get the kids to school? Is it during your lunch break at work? Is it right before bed? What really will work within your schedule? So I love the idea of really setting an appointment with yourself. I'll tell you a funny story too. I had a woman that I worked with who knew herself well enough that if she didn't put a price tag on her time, she wouldn't necessarily follow through. She was a very successful businesswoman who always thought in terms of ROI, return on investment. So she would schedule time to journal, and if she didn't actually do it, then she would charge herself for not showing up to her personal appointment. And every time she didn't, she would charge herself $25 and then move that money from her bank account into her savings account. Well, there was about a span of a 3-week time period where she did not actually show up to the appointment that she set day after day. So 3 weeks, every single day, she ended up moving over $525 into her savings account. And while money wasn't an issue for her, seeing that amount of money leave her bank account every single day made her show up. It made her come to the page and do the work. So if that's you, maybe that's a suggestion, right? I kind of always laugh when I tell people that, but if it works, it works. So the next thing that you need to do is really find somewhere quiet to write. This is incredibly important if you're one that is a mom or a busy wife or have a high demand career. Try not to journal in the middle of chaos, right? When we're trying to pull chaos forward, the last thing we want to do is create more negative feelings outside of ourselves. So, find the quiet place. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb or, leave it in another room if you want. With those pieces established, now I want you to really not overthink what you will place your thoughts in or on. Journaling does not have to be done in the hardback fancy books with great designs and fancy paper. Literally pick up a spiral notebook. I personally journal in a wide rule composition notebook. I buy them by the case. They end up costing about 88 cents per piece. They last for about a month, maybe half a month, depending on how much journaling I'm doing. But it doesn't need to be an expensive habit. I have women who've shown up for session with spiral notebooks, binders with notebook paper in it, legal tablets. It doesn't actually matter. Do not overthink it. Do not go for perfection. Don't spend your time trying to look for the best, prettiest thing. Put the time and the investment into getting the thoughts into paper. Now, it's time to tap in and go deeper. Of course, this is just an overview. There are literally thousands of ways to tap into the subconscious mind. We're really just skimming the surface here. But there are ways for you to begin. And even if you've already journaled before, you're currently doing it now, remember that there is absolutely nothing wrong with returning back to a beginner's mindset. Shifting how we are doing things now, it's never wrong, right? And doing so can often allow us to get into a new layer of ourselves, get down to the root of an answer that maybe we didn't even know we needed. So the first step into therapeutic subconscious exploring through journaling is to start where you are right now today. If you've done the intentionality work, you know what you're dealing with, whether it's an emotion that you need to look at or a situation, or you're just wanting to rewire the subconscious for greater growth. Whatever it is, start with that framework of how you feel right now, not how you felt at the time, what has unfolded, or how you want the situation to be. That stuff will come up. It will surface. But what I really want you to do right now is focus on the now. When you do so, what happens is you begin to see how the relationship to the moment has changed. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But with this mindset geared in the now, start writing from the first thought that pops into your mind. This is huge. Don't overthink it. Just get into the very first thought that comes up. When we do this, the mind lets go of what we think we should be writing about and goes into what needs to be addressed at the moment. So give yourself permission to meet your thoughts where they are as they are. Next, allow yourself to drop into your feelings. Especially if something comes up, allow yourself to feel the moment. When we get into proper journaling, a side effect of this is we learn to meet our emotions. We find out what they really mean to us. We can see how the thoughts make us feel and how that creates the action we take. So drop in, feel. If you feel like you're going to cry, cry. If you want to laugh, laugh. If you feel like you're going to scream, let it loose. Anger, feel it too. The way we regulate our emotions is by witnessing our emotions. The way we change the subconscious pattern is to create a new one. When we feel and understand what is coming up for us, we can change what controls us. We can change our emotional situation. If we have already done the work around similar moments while we're journaling and we come and we meet another moment like it, guess what? We're going to have a different reaction because we've already witnessed that maybe we didn't love our first reaction. And we tell the subconscious, hey, my friend, the next time this comes up, this is how I am going to handle the situation. You are literally creating self-control by dropping in this way. If whatever comes up becomes too heavy, you really do have two choices, and this really comes down to self-permission. The first choice is to shift into something lighter for the time being, knowing that you will need to return at some point to really go through this. And the next one is to really resist the urge to stop. This is your practice, so you do what works for you. If something's too heavy, then, table it for a moment. But if you know that you can find emotional balance after moving through this, whether you're using breath work or exercise or meditation, whatever it is, but you know you can move back into center, then don't stop. Deal with what comes up in real time. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But like any other healing work, understand you have to go through it in order to get through it. As you move through the writing process and you've really leaned in, you've looked at it, you are really dropping into your emotions, we can then move into the conscious thought process and begin to look at what is written. Now, this can be done at the same time that you're writing, or it can be tabled for a few days later, but you do want to examine your words. And when you do that, I want you to get into the practice of naming the emotion and the experience. Meaning, what did you feel when you wrote? What did you feel at the time the moment was originally occurring? Associate an emotion with a sensation. Was it anxiety? Were your hands trembling? Was it fear? Was it sadness? What was it? And name how that experience has impacted you. You can do this in two frames. One in a positive frame, and the other, of course, is negative. I want you to start with the negative, though. We always want to leave ourselves feeling our best, or at least even 1% better when we end the time with our journal. So start with the negative. It's important. And how we do that is really look at how this negatively impacted you. What needs to be cleaned up? How has this experience asked you to form patterns that you now need to let go of? You see, name the experience, lean into it, and give yourself permission to let go. Then name the positive. That sounds something like, this experience made me realize my strength is ... Get as detailed as you can. This is not the time for general statements. We want to begin to understand that everything that happens in our lives are, in fact, teachers. In fact, that's the next step. It is to receive the teaching moment and the wisdom of the moment. As I said in the beginning, we have to use our experiences to our advantage. Writing them helps us do just that. It offers the insight that helps us get to the root of the trauma, the negativity, the limiting belief, the growth pattern, whatever it is. After you're finished journaling the moment, ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Listen to the inner conversation you are having with yourself. And from there, you want to give yourself permission to create a plan to let it go. Some find writing a letter to the trauma or to the person who hurt you is a really productive way to move through the release. Some don't write this part, but instead visualize it leaving them, leaving their lives, closing the door on it. Some write about how they're going to use these moments to serve others. Again, whatever is natural is what I want you to lean into. Now, please understand, if you're writing about a major event, something heavy or traumatic, it may take you a few days to process it. It could even take you a few weeks to go through it. But writing it out is incredibly important, so just stick with it. What I have outlined for you is an extended version of a technique called the brain dump. I've mentioned it before in other podcasts. It's my absolute favorite healing tool. So I'm going to include a link to that blog on my website, and it has the exact steps how to perform that. If that's something that you feel like you need as, a step-by-step printout, it's there for you, okay? I also want to offer you a few prompts because even though this seems pretty self-explanatory, there are those of you that will feel like it's just too foreign. It's outside of what really will work for you. And if that's the case, if you need prompts, of course, the internet is filled with them, but you can actually create prompts for yourself. And how you do that is outside of your journaling time, write out 5 to 10 statements that you know you need to address in your life. So maybe it is that you need to work on forgiveness. So maybe your prompt is something along the lines of, what would it take for me to forgive those I feel have contributed to my sadness within my life? it's really important to look at how that was constructed. It was about you. It wasn't about being upset with the person you feel has contributed to your pain, but it was, how can I forgive? Here's another. What actions in my past do I need to address to allow me to not hold myself back? Again, that's about you. Another one on the positive end would be, what are my 5 top qualities that I love about myself the most? With that, let me offer you a few more techniques that you can help that may not be as fully active as the subconscious writing as far as getting into the quick rewiring of these subconscious patterns, but they do impact the subconscious. So of course they're great. And the first one is called the Springboard Technique. Now, just like subconscious journaling, I'm going to ask that you resist the urge to censor yourself and also the urge to quit. This one is super simple. The springboard here is a word, right? So we're using a single word to help us spring into action. An example of this would be like saying the word heal, putting that on a piece of paper. You write the word heal vertically down the side of your paper, and with each word, you're going to form a new sentence. So let me give you an example off the top of my head. H in healing. Perhaps your sentence is helping myself see the good in life. E, emotionally finding balance with everything I think, feel, and do. A, add more love and joy into my life. L, learning to love myself regardless of how things have been or will be. So it doesn't matter your word, whatever comes to mind, down the vertical side of your paper, creating sentences next to them. When we use this as our springboard, we can actually create longer exercises out of it and really look at how you're going to use those sentences to impact your life. This next technique is something I love, and it's really about having a conversation, a complete dialogue with yourself. Remember how I said journaling is all about meeting you with you. It's you against you. And this really is a way to tell the story in a way that will work for you. It's also a really great way to talk to your inner critic. And here you're just going to write out a conversation with yourself. I'm going to run through one to help you kind of understand. And maybe it starts with, I feel like I keep failing. The conversation back to you, are you failing? In a lot of ways, I am. Well, I guess I need to know what you mean. Well, I haven't given enough time to my spouse or my kids because everything is about work or making sure that I meet everyone else's needs. And I just feel like I can't even keep up. Well, how can you change that? You see, you're really just having a conversation that's written on paper, and you're going to be amazed by what comes up by doing this. Having a unfiltered conversation with the self brings up so much that really is truly amazing. Another tool you can use is the stepping stone tool. Here, we're going to lean into the major milestones of your life. You know, if you've had a lot of trauma or personal doubt, this one helps us see our life from a different angle and aspect. And as you write your stepping stones, you're really reaching for, an individual exercise per each stone. So we're looking at these big moments, our wins, our victories, these things we've overcome, and we're writing them out. Maybe one of the stones is that you hit a goal within your business. One is that you've hit a personal goal that was to do with your personal development. Or maybe it's one that you know that you need to really work towards healing depression. Or maybe you give yourself credit for how you showed up when things were hard. This conversation could really go on for days and days, but on the stepping stones, just write out your major milestones. Use those as your launching pad to have a deeper conversation with yourself. It really does help us get into a new angle of our life. But I want to give you one last one. It's one that I encourage a lot of women that I work with to do. It is a process that is extremely expansive, but I'm going to water it down for you. And it's called the brain map. If you've ever done any type of brainstorming activity, this is it. It's very simple. Take a blank piece of paper and in the middle, create a topic. or a picture if you want, and really get into what it is that you're concentrating on. And from there, you're going to draw a line to write out a subtopic. So let's say you are focused on growth. A subtopic of growth may be getting to a deeper understanding of your emotions. This is essentially a point of the topic in which you want to explore. You can do this until the page is full or until you really run out of things to map. And when you're finished, you really do have a pathway to your growth or your healing or whatever that middle topic was for you, whatever it is you're focusing on. I absolutely love this because so much comes up that is so unexpected for so many people. So give that a try. These are just a few ways to get started, and each of these are truly ways to open the door to what you need, want, and desire. It also helps you prioritize your needs and goals. As you make this practice a habit, you will begin to see things shift. You will begin to become very clear about what you want from yourself, from your life, and how you will and will not show up. It's here that we rewrite our stories and the subconscious. The truth is, when you ask yourself a question, every part of you, your brain, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your subconscious actually wants to help you find the answer, right? When I teach this type of journaling, I'm often asked, are there ways or signs to know that we haven't tapped into the subconscious? And of course, the answer is yes. And I'm going to briefly hand over these signs so that you can watch for them. Now, if you journal and you're not doing subconscious work, that's okay. Not every day needs to be really hard hitting. So give yourself permission and space to do what you need at the time. Just show up to the page anyway. Do it as what works for you at that moment. But overall, we do want to root down so that we can move through and become the best version of ourselves. So what are some of those signs? Being unable to complete a thought. If you are tapped in, you are not searching. The ideas will flow to you. You will not be stuck. So if you find yourself trying to find something to talk about, to write about on the page, know that you are not actually in the subconscious mind. And just give yourself permission to take a deep breath, release the thought, and try again. Maybe it doesn't work for you that day, and that's okay. The next sign to look out for is the one where you are stopping every few minutes to check your progress. If you are in the subconscious, you are likely unaware of the time that is passing. So if you find yourself checking your progress to look what you've written, you're not in the subconscious mind. If you find yourself really changing themes or bouncing from one topic to the other, it's likely that you are outside of the subconscious as well. Here, you're really creating a roadblock or a mental block to what you need to be doing. And again, give yourself permission to start again or to leave it at that moment. And lastly, if you find that you cannot focus, you really are reaching for your phone or your mind is really unsettled, know that you're not in the subconscious mind as well. There is a difference between feeling an old wound or working with limiting thoughts or really leaning into the negative and really not being able to focus. So if you can't focus, you're not in the subconscious. Now, I've given you so many reasons, really directed at healing and growth as to why you should make journaling a daily practice. But there are other benefits too, so I want to hand those over very quickly. It definitely promotes gratitude. We find appreciation for what is in our life. It improves our communication skills. It helps us manage our emotions. It removes blocks. It tracks our behavioral patterns. It helps us solve problems. We release negative emotions. We relieve ourselves of stress and anxiety. We give ourselves a kind of a baseline platform to start the day off with if we're doing it first thing in the morning. It's a powerful way to reflect on how things are going in our lives. It helps us set intentions. It spurs on creativity. And one of the other things that I love so much is it records your personal story. Journaling is a therapeutic, soothing, and honestly, a sacred practice. Come to the table and allow your mind, body, and soul to connect. Meet yourself. Meet yourself in a way that maybe you just haven't done before. After all, you deserve to feel your absolute best. And it's an essential step into getting your life together, girl. Thanks so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you've enjoyed these tips to bettering your life, please subscribe and turn on notifications to be alerted each week when a new episode is released. You can follow us on social media at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, or you can visit the show notes and our website at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. If you would like to go deeper into this technique, visit our show notes where you can purchase the downloadable ebook and journal, You Are Only as Strong as Your Weakest Emotion. Thank you for being a valuable part of this community. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.